Hi everybody, this is Christian Moralia from Transformative Ed Tech, and today we're going to be talking about personalized learning based upon one of my experiences with my grandson. We're looking at a walk with my grandson. I'm Christian Moralia, and you can follow me on Twitter at T4EdTech and on YouTube with the Transformative Ed Tech channel. So I've been taking courses for a Canvas certified educator certification, and the most recent course I've been taking is on personalized learning. And my definition of personalized learning is that which a learning experience becomes pretty much part of the student, and it's tailored to the needs of the student, beginning with assessing what does the student need as soon as they come into the course. It requires ongoing feedback, not just an assessment and we move on, but growth for the student. It requires that the student have a self-discovery process. And it also makes sure that the learning process is a real-life application, something they could use in going forward. It also gives the student agency in the whole learning process as well. So I've had my grandson with me over the almost last month, off and on, and typically we would take walks around our block. And he's a very inquisitive child. He's almost 3 years old, and he just is full of so many questions. And it really was making me think about this interest in this ongoing learning, desire to learn more and more and more. The key things about personalization is you allow for learning to take place on the student's time. And it's not saying that we don't have deadlines, but when I walk, I walk like I'm on a mission. He walks and he's looking at everything. He's looking down on the ground. He's finding insects. He's looking at a toy that's across the street and saying that it's his or he wants to have it. And so there's this inquiry process going on constantly. And in a classroom, we really want to make sure that that's developed. Once again, we do have to establish deadlines, but as I was walking with him, I really understood the fact that he really wanted to learn. He was taking everything in. Now, this requires paradigm shifts in instructional techniques as well. Obviously, we have a content to teach, but we want to make sure that our students are engaged. And sometimes, I know for myself as an educator, I would try to rush through topics and without giving students ample time to digest what I covered. And I was called out at times for with students who said, can you slow down a bit? And I really have to take that in consideration. So the inquiry process and personalization, it's not on my time, it's on the student's time. Now, one of the things that happened as we walked is, as I said, my grandson was always pointing out bugs. There were ants, which he would just take a look at and just stomp on them. I think things that are moving, he was just very attracted to and wanted to stomp on. We came across flies, ladybugs, pretty much any moving insect. And there were bugs everywhere. And so this was a walk where I might walk, we would walk together maybe 10 feet and he would stop and he'd say, oh, look, there, he would, in his own words, what's that? What's that? And then I'd say, well, ladybug. And he might answer, why? Or why is it walking? Or where's it going? And so this constant questioning, as I said, is real important. We want to make sure that that's developed with our students as well. So there's all kinds of questions about the world around. And usually before he went on the walk, said he'd been watching a little bit of YouTube. Some of his channels he'd watched that were about monster trucks and that were animated, and or one that was such as Caleb in the backyard or something like that, where he was asking about insects. So there were questions, for example, there were cement trucks that are in the neighborhood, and he was asking, where are they going? What are they doing? Are they going home? Are they going to work? And so, as I said, this constant questioning, I sometimes wonder what happens with our students when they get to the secondary level where that questioning stops. Obviously, like I said, it is content related, but it makes me think about how we can change how we teach, so that this questioning at some point continues. So we get this 3-year-old interest. One of the things that was important here is just the identification of different things. So as I said, cement trucks, and then the repetition. So as the students are learning, identifying maybe an answer or a concept, and not just leaving it there, giving this repetitive process, this feedback, which is so important. It's not just feedback for one time, but it's feedback again and again and again, so that this becomes embedded in their learning process, and they feel like they have ownership, they have some type of mastery. So we think about, like, what's going on here? What's going on with the almost 3-year-old who's just asking questions over and over and over again? And perhaps, why doesn't this happen maybe in my own classroom? So it requires a really sitting down and thinking about, okay, what am I trying to accomplish? Where is this student agency? What type of feedback am I giving them? Obviously, I can tell you from my own experience, I wasn't interested in every course that I was taking, especially in middle school or in high school. There were some that just I didn't like. But it's imperative that we as educators try to take the approach that all students there are there to learn, not necessarily become A students, but do things that show that they have achieved some type of mastery based upon their learning skills and abilities. So in review here, we're talking about this personalized learning concept. Once again, it was done on my grandson's time frame. This ongoing feedback that I was providing him over and over and over again when he'd ask about questions. By the way, the walk that we took, that typically I could walk around the block in 10 minutes, was a 40-minute experience. Sometimes he was on a scooter, sometimes he was on his trike, but he was always stopping. He found sow bugs, pill bugs, different flowers, bees, things that were moving in the grass, dragonflies. And so it required me to give ongoing feedback. It's also a little bit of self-discovery here as he began to understand and realize, okay, I'm learning about certain things, because with the feedback, I might ask him, so what is that? Instead of him asking me, I would ask him, what is that? And then he could realize, oh yeah, I've actually learned about something here. Using and applying real life experiences. Now, as I said, he was watching videos, and then some of the things that he was provoked some inquiry, where there was one little boy that was out in the backyard looking at bugs. He could then apply that to his own experiences, and then I could ask him to retell his experiences. And of course, there was agency. He was the focus here. So all of this is extremely important in the personalized learning process. And once again, we want to make sure that in our classrooms that we are assessing, when students come into our classroom, we assess their needs, find out what's going on. And this assessment isn't just a one-time, I'm going to leave it on the side. It is something that we want to keep doing over and over and over again, taking a look, okay, what skills are you developing? And in that self-discovery process, constant feedback. One of the things I learned as I took the course is that the feedback process is not just one and done, it's constant feedback and allowing the student to redo an assignment until they achieve that mastery level. Learning choices. I've been an advocate of choice boards. I used them over the last year. I didn't give any test at all. And those learning choices for the students that were engaged, they really liked the fact that they could produce a learning experience in many different ways, whatever ways fit them. Real life application. So taking a real life experience. So a lot of things, for example, I taught history, and we're looking at content, maybe something that happened 200 years ago, but so what's the real life application to this? Maybe there's people that don't know about this topic. So how can we teach, how can the students teach them about the topic? And sometimes maybe that's a social media post, or it's a web page, or it's actually going to talk to somebody or interviewing something. So all of this is extremely important in the whole personalization process. Now, my big question is, will the same interest be there in 10 years? So with my grandson, who, as I said, was almost 3 years old, is this same thing going to, the same budding interest about the world around him, is it going to exist in 10 years? and where we have to take a look at where we can continue to facilitate that learning process. So even though it can be exhausting, that these children continue the learning process. And I know we've been through a pandemic and there's talk about learning loss, but we want to make sure that we can do whatever we can. And maybe we have to reinvent our classrooms and how we teach. So thank you for following and thank you for watching. And once again, you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Transformative EdTech. I'm Chris Morelia from T4 EdTech Consulting.